Thank you for joining me for Young Jedi Adventures Season 2, Episode 9, The Missing Life Day Feast / The Lost Treasure of Tenoo Thoughts. The episode is for ages 6 and up, so will this video be. There will be spoilers for the episode and everything Star Wars leading up to, leading up to and including it. Another good episode. So I think I would definitely say the first half is the better of the two stories. So yeah, let's. For one thing, I quite appreciate seeing Wookiees that are not like warriors. One of them is transporting food, and the other one, when in a situation where they're close to the food, their brother, they don't fight. They just they do that thing. I forget what that game's called, but you make it. They not psych out. They get past the pirate by making them think they're gonna go in one direction and then going in the other, basically, not warrior behavior. Because, we really need to normalize, like, no group of people is just 100% defined by one thing. Normally when we see Wookiees in Star Wars, they are fighting. It's kind of, they're defined by they're big and they're aggressive in battle and such. I think that does. Yeah. So the leader of the Gangles is saying, she's intending to ruin Life Day, which I don't know. From what I hear, the Star Wars Holiday Special beat her to it. That is one thing I will say. I haven't watched that. I've only seen clips and such. Clearly, that one does also show Wookiees that are not warriors, so that is one positive about it. I mean, I enjoyed they ended up putting on Disney Plus the animated bit with Boba Fett. That was pretty good. I think that pretty well brings us to. So let's see. Yeah, they talk about, we're gonna cut down this tree that they love, so going full Avatar, huh? And let's see, I continue to really appreciate that when Wookiees and some other aliens as well, when they speak, they actually speak the alien tongue, and it's just translated by someone. That's another thing we need to normalize. Hey, different groups of people have different languages from one another. That's not inherently bad. There was also the earlier episode with the new Jedi guy, was like, talking to Nubs, and he's like, I have no idea what you're saying, but I will learn. Yeah, I think that pretty well gets us. Let's see. So so one of the sort of core conflicts in this first story of this episode is, of course, the nephew. Will he, keep to the evil that his aunt insists upon? And that is something, that is a conflict, of course, felt by quite a few, children of people who clearly do something evil. And, sadly, sometimes they do grow up to themselves do evil. Evil is a choice you make. It is not some inborn quality. No matter how bad you think someone is, hypothetically, they could still choose to stop doing evil. I'm not saying you have to forgive them. Let's see. I think yeah, I thought they handled that conflict quite well. I, throughout, felt genuine, like... I mean, considering the show, I was pretty sure he was going to end up doing the right thing, but I appreciate the amount of weight they gave to it, that for so much of the episode, really the most of the story, he kept just doing what she asked, even as he was pointing out, this is bad, this is wrong. Yeah, good action, and I like that this thing of like they only win because they were able to trust the nephew. Because again, evil is a choice. He made the right choice, and again, not saying you have to, at least not immediately, forgive, but if you engage in restorative justice, you can make right a lot of evil that you may have done. Many people end up doing evil for various reasons. As soon as you realize that it's evil, if you stop and you do what you can to fix things, that means a lot. Yeah. I think I was a little surprised that so much of the tree got cut. I thought that they would get there in time to stop the... Yeah. Yeah, I think that does almost cover everything for this first story. I did like that he, the nephew lied to the aunt. That's again, listen, if lying can enable you to do good, then yes, it is okay to lie. It is not inherently wrong, yeah. And that's what we see here. He clearly lied to the end. And I did also like, Kai thinks he has to make this big speech to convince the nephew, and he's like, oh, you're already there. Good. I think that does bring us to... I like that the fighting ends when the good guys are able to intimidate so many of the bad guys that they just don't want to fight anymore, because that is something I will admit I only learned in recent years, but in reality a lot of battles and wars and such end when enough people say they don't want to fight anymore. And I think... Does that bring us to the... I feel like there's something... Okay, so I have in the past been accused, occasionally, accurately, of overanalyzing, reading too much into things. So let's do some of that. I would argue that you could read it as... that you... If you truly love someone, you should accept them the way they are. It says... It is right to celebrate friends and family and to support our loved ones, to celebrate them. I gotta say, I know there's some chance that it's not, meant to be read as that, because Disney has already, given into pressure, sadly, from the far right, and removed other such, from other animated shows. So yeah, there's a decent chance that this is not meant to say you should accept trans people in your life. If one of your family members comes out as trans, you should accept them. I'd like to think that's the case. I appreciate that there's a pretty decent chance it's not. I do think that it can be read as that intentionally or otherwise. And I also like, they do actually say, the leader of the Gangles doesn't want to celebrate family, and, you see the nephew near the end of the story be like, so I'm not to be celebrated. You don't appreciate me. And, yeah, I mean, he doesn't celebrate her because she's chosen to do evil. But if someone you love is choosing not to do evil, you should celebrate them. And also just the fact that, yeah, like, literally, the Gangle leader is talking about, like, oh, I just hate them because I don't approve of the way they do things, and I want to ruin things for them. And by the end of the story of the episode, this first half of the episode, it says, you should resist that. You should fight back when someone is trying to ruin. And yeah, I gotta say, I read that as the Gangles are equivalent to transphobes, and yeah. Right at one point, the question is raised, like, where's Rudy? I don't know. Is he still on Cameo? Maybe. Did Donald Trump cut him off, as he eventually does with everyone, including people who literally ruin their lives just to support him? I'm not sure. And that brings us to the second half. Yeah, I felt like too much of the second half was taken up by either exposition or fighting that didn't really, like, it was kind of just, it felt like filler. I don't know. I did think that the central conflict worked well. But yeah, the start of it is like they're watching someone deliver exposition, and then they pause it to deliver their own exposition, and it's like, I wouldn't have hated if you just showed us these things, I mean, some of these things would not have taken very long to show. At the very least, have visuals while expositioning about it, something. But yeah, it's another one where, as someone who is not 6 years old, I can't help but notice they really do hammer in, when they want to make a point, like, oh, Jovi's afraid of snakes, so, when they see the snakes, they're like, oh, and then afterwards they're like, oh, we should go to the place with the snakes. Snake, and despite all that, Kai doesn't realize, which I will say, sometimes in real life, some people can't, tell if you don't tell them verbally, they don't realize that something's wrong. So yeah, that's another thing we got to normalize. If there's someone you care about and you have reason to believe that they'll accept, when you say it, yes, tell them if something's wrong. We are social creatures. There's nothing wrong with leaning on someone else. We got to get away from this, ridiculous, individualist, objectivist crap. I think, yeah, it was cool to see Captain Black Bolt again. And it was genuinely cool that, so the lair is hidden by, like, the waterfall, and yeah. And I like the repeated, I thought they handled that right. I think there was only two times where they said, last one there has to clean up the training area, so when Jovi is like, okay, let's do this, that's how they express that, that was great. And also just this thing of, like, snakes, from what I've heard, it is accurate that there are a number of snakes, if we don't bother them, they won't bother us. And some snakes are actually harmless. Now, obviously, I'm not saying you should find out which ones by testing it out yourself. I'm just saying, if you are told by a trustworthy source, this snake is harmless, yeah, I mean, if you feel like it, if you feel comfortable with it. I'm not telling anyone they have to, yeah, touch a snake. It feels weird to even say. I have nothing against people who do it. I don't think I could myself. But yeah, not telling anyone that they have to touch a snake. Do I look like Robert Rodriguez? Yeah, I think that brings us to, so the yeah, they arrive and right. Also, the thing about if you wish, if you look at someone in the past and you're like, oh, I wish I were able to, I wish I had known them. Yeah, like studying about them. Go to a museum if that's an option. Um, yeah, like I have some of my favorite experiences from childhood were in museums and the like, exhibits. Not always museums, but yeah, it's a fascinating way to learn about the past. I've always been fascinated by Vikings, and there's a place that has a bunch of Viking stuff, not too far away from here, and boy, I really loved it when I was younger, going to that place and like the swords and the chainmail. It's just so cool, So, yeah, that's again something we gotta normalize. There's too many people saying, oh, we shouldn't learn new things. I just recently finished. Okay, so this one's not for the kids, in case there are any watching. This one's for any adults who might be watching. The Kyle Colgren video on PragerU and Shakespeare, and yeah, this thing of like, no, we shouldn't learn. PragerU saying we shouldn't learn new things. We should just obsess over the old things that they also really misinterpret in a fascinating way. Yeah, I think that brings us and the Jedi younglings to the cave. And yeah, I kind of like the way that they just hand wave away, But Nash sent you to the other side of the galaxy. Oh, I rebuilt, and now I'm back, because, and I guess it is also like, yeah, that's enough. We don't really need to see it because, yeah, like, it's not like he was disabled or something. It's as a robot. I mean, stopped, ceased functioning. I'm not talking about disability in humans or living other organic beings. Um, Obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, um, I didn't feel quite as. I felt like he was more impressive in the other episode, but it was fine, and it was great to see him again. I really appreciate that they're making him a recurring. Like, I don't know if it'll happen, but they're setting up by the end of this episode. Yeah, he might come back at least once more. And the let's see. Yeah, the fighting, the choreography was great. I really enjoyed the bit where Jovi swings on a vine to get Kai off the. That felt like a take on Luke swinging with Leia in A New Hope. So quite appreciated that. And yeah, it was also, I thought they did a good job of making it feel like, oh, the bad guys might actually win here, and at first they sort of do. And yeah, this thing of, oh, I'm afraid of snakes. Well, why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid you'd see me as weak. And it's such a huge problem. There's so many young men who end up doing awful things, or not doing something that they should because they're afraid of being perceived as weak. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, probably after this video as well. The word coward has been used to encourage so many bad things done by young men and discourage good things. So yeah, I quite appreciate it. And yeah, once Jovi comes out and says, I'm afraid, and I thought you'd see me as weak, Kai is like, well, of course I see you as weak. I'm kidding. I have fears as well, I worry about the thing too, which honestly I can really sympathize with that. I too feel great terror at the idea of someone making a sequel to the 1982 movie The Thing, which you kids shouldn't be watching. That's another reference for the adults watching. Yeah, I don't know. I watched that movie and I feel like you shouldn't follow up this story. Probably not even as a video game. And yeah, and they talk about Kai's afraid of spiders and Jovi is afraid of snakes, and while the other is comfortable around. So yeah, I think that does get us to. Yeah, so they go back. Also, really very cool when they're racing on the horse-like aliens. The move Jovi pulls, like, holy crap. I've seen people do that in fiction and on motorcycles, but with a living creature, that's, yeah, very, very cool. And yeah, so they get back to the place and the lair, and you have this thing of Black Bolt is also afraid of the snakes, even though they're harmless. And also, Black Bolt has no organic parts. He is 100% that robot. What is he afraid of? There's no organic parts for that snake to hurt. And you also, of course, have, it raises that thing of, like, I don't know if it's an issue, but robots feeling anything, including fear, because, like, why, you would think it's like programmed in certain ways, and why would it be programmed to feel fear, at least of something that's technically harmless, at least to it. Like, even if the snake could do something to organic, it couldn't do anything to Black Bolt. Like, if he's to be afraid of something like, okay, water, for example. But that's the thing with fear, and we also see it in Jovi, because Jovi knows they are harmless. Fear is not rational. It doesn't really make sense, and it encourages certain behaviors that in the moment might seem like that's a good idea, that's the solution to this, and if you do it, you might really end up regretting it, and it could have really dire consequences, not just for you. Like voting for Donald Trump maybe as much as 2 or 3 times.